digital innovation fund, come and get it. It's going to be easy to get, not very cumbersome. The only condition is you have to think of ASEAN market, you have to think of Asia market, and you need to be out of the country. In order for you to really absorb new ideas and technology and things like that, in order for us to become innovative, it doesn't have to be in Thailand. The key difference is that a lot of politicians back in Thailand, they think of this kind of industrial policy is made in Thailand. I think of it as made with Thailand. It doesn't have to be confined within the territory of our country. It's too small. You have to have regional ambition in order to become innovative. Second is on pain point innovation. All of that inequality that I was talking about. If you're coming from Sattahip or from Chonburi, for example, the water quality is not very good. If you come to Phuket, the problem with water leakage is about 50%. The water goes into the system and it goes to your hotel. You input about 100, it comes by only 50 because of all the leakages in the water system. How do you use on the off-shelf innovation that's already existing? UX, UI, smart metering, water flow analysis, all these things that are available anywhere in the world, but use it for inequality. Technology for inequality. How do you fix inequality of Thailand? Because if you see how much it is, if you turn it into an asset and digitize it using technology to use, that's like lots and lots of money for all the folks from the business school. I mean, those people that think they want to move to Southeast Asia, they want to move to Thailand and have a business idea. Just look at all the inequality that the country has. And then use innovation that is off the shelf. Doesn't have to be like the most advanced things to do, but you put it into a package, you'll be able to make sure that there's a big market for you to tackle. And the last one is niche innovation. Whether it's silicon carbide, whether it's gallium nitride, these are the semiconductor industries that is too small for the Americans to think about. It's too small for the Indians to think about. It's too small for the Japanese to think about. It's too small for the South Korean to think about. But Thailand has a lot of electronic industry and landscape and capability that we can focus. Because these two specialized tech is very important for EV and also solar cells. So it can't be. If you ask the government and they say, next steps will be robotics and semiconductors, it's too big, and it's too big, and you can never compete with the amount of investment that Japanese is doing, or South Korean, or Vietnam, or America, or India. So it has to be something that is relevant, but very niche, and something that Thailand can innovate on. On super aging society. So aging more, aging fast. 21% of Thai population will be older than 65 years old. Compare that to the world average of 14%. Singapore is only 18.5%. That number within 2030 will become 30%. So imagine if you have a country, 100 people, and 30 of them are retiring. They're older than 65, and the remaining 60-something has to provide as a workforce and provide as a social safety net for the 35% that is retiring already. It could happen in Japan, it could happen in South Korea, it could happen in Europe, but it's happening in Thailand now. So that's something that we are facing in the future. And the workforce by 2035, like I said, 30% of the population will be in retirement. But then I think of this as a super economy, as an opportunity for Thailand to leverage itself and use it to tackle the aging society problems in Thailand. Whether it's assistive healthcare, whether it's aging in places, whether it's a silverpreneur, silver fitness, wellness, and travel, or what I call dementia village. Dementia village is a concept developed in the Netherlands back in the year 2000 or something like that. I'll probably come up with a better name. Not exactly dementia village, but neuro wellness village or something like that. But if you design the entire thing, the entire community, and I'm thinking about Lampang province, up north in Thailand, where 30% of the people are already aging. Make it a universal design, big signs, integrated in the community, make sure that our medical staff and hospitality staff that is already good, make it into a village, and all over the world, if that's how you want to retire properly, neuro wellness village or dementia village is something that Thailand has that capability to do. Number one and number two, there's already a lot going on in Thailand. We leverage our automotive industry infrastructure, also electronic infrastructure, and turn it into an assistive healthcare. Aging in places is like, they go into your home and remodel the entire house to make sure that the elderly can make a living and stay inside and age properly in place. These are the four things that I think are opportunities for the country in terms of super aging society. Infrastructure. I look at this as the cost of GDP. Compared to Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, and Japan, the cost of logistics per GDP is about 15%. Our port ranking is 45 compared to all those from Singapore and Japan and South Korea. Tourism, while it's in high demand, if you look at any media, you see Thailand as number one top destination in terms of demand. But in terms of supply, in terms of infrastructure, it needs to be upgraded. Tourism service is 2.18 according to the World Economic Forum, compared to that of South Korea, Malaysia, and Singapore, for example. So that's a room for upgrade in terms of infrastructure. The problem is, with rail and with port, that's why all the commercial vehicles, commercial logistics, residential transportation is all on the roads. That's why the roads in Thailand is always in traffic, and that's why it's always looking like somebody just like a 15-ton truck that goes on it every day. Because there's no rails. There's no good rails in terms of commercial and residential transportation. The problem is this, the gauge. Who's an engineer in this room? Who's a transportation engineer? So how many types of gauge is there in the rail system in the world? Do you know? Yeah. There's two standards of rail gauge. One is called meter gauge, and the other one is called standard gauge. The meter gauge is 1,000 millimeter, and that's in Asia and that's in Latin America. But the standard gauge is about 1,435 millimeter. So I need my details because of this. I don't want to make a mistake. So if I take a rail down from southern part of Thailand and go to Malaysia, or if I go up north to Laos and trying to go to China, that's the problem, that I have to get off the rail in Thailand and then go to the immigration and get on a different rail. Because, one is, the width is 1,000 millimeter and one is 1,435 millimeter. So the train is cumbersome, it's not seamless. And we have to really think about this realignment or even a double gauge system so that it allows continuation, so that it makes sense for you to upgrade your rails. Electrification of it, decentralization of public transportation I was telling you about, and also resilience of tourism infrastructure. It's going to get worse in Chiang Mai. It's going to get worse in Phuket. It's going to get worse in Nakhon Thamarat. The question is, how do you adapt and how do you make sure that you are resilient enough that tourism doesn't get impact as much because it's 20% of our GDP. So state reform, corruption, and inefficiency. Thailand dropped by 7 rankings from 101 to 108 compared to any other countries. The better benchmark is the year when last military coup happened. So, they intervene and there's so much corruption in Thailand. And paternalistically, the military, it's good people and they know better and they want to intervene and take care of the corruption problems. So the year that they took, the year that they intervened, if I'm not mistaken, the ranking was about 90 something. 91, 92 or something like that. And 10 years after it becomes 108. So, you know, the excuse of throwing a military coup to reduce corruption doesn't really show that number that much. So how do you take care of corruption problems in Thailand, and what do I propose? I propose regulatory guillotine. There's about 7,000 laws. That 7,000 laws is for discretion. It's like permits. If you want to open a factory, you have to get 10 permits. It's going to be a bit slow, but if you slip something below the table, it might be quicker, even if you don't need it anymore. The law was developed in year 1912 or something like that, but it needs to be there because discretion and monopolizing and lack of transparency leads to corruption. That's why the law is still there. That's why the permit is still there. Just because, you know, it allows discretion and it encourages corruption. We did a study on it in the parliament. We can reduce it by half. I mean, some of these laws were written in the 19,000, like 114 years ago, but it still exists because nobody wanted to think about, you know, making it efficient and things like that. On the right side, that's the proportion of personnel budget to GDP compared to countries in the Asia Pacific. You can see that Thailand is about 6.12 in terms of public servants to the capita. So the efficiency of government is something that we really need to think about. So for these issues, what I propose is that we go through regulatory guillotine and digital government, cloud, you know, cloud policies of the government. Each ministries have their own clouds. So that's the inefficiency that the government has to invest on, which is our tax money, by the way. But, you know, if you have it into a single cloud policy that we were trying to propose, you reduce the inefficiency, you reduce the redundancy, and then you can streamline the service for the people. Regulatory guillotine and reduce the laws by almost about half to reduce the corruption. I feel like that's the way forward in terms of the state reform. So I close with the same page that I started. You might look at it as the future of Thailand is in crisis if you do nothing about it, if it's a status quo. But if you think about it and you try to strategize and hypothesize and mobilize, you started to see it as solutions and opportunities. And it doesn't have to be, as the title suggested, that it's going to be comfort for few and crisis for most, but it can be competitive for all if we work together. So that's it in a nutshell. On the slides we put up online for all the students. You know, some of you come from the science school, some of you from law school, some of you from business school, some of you come from different universities. We can do a deep dive on all these things, and if you're interested, you know, all these information, all these data, you don't have to go through it yourself because it's already there, and I compile it for you as a springboard, as a platform for you to keep understanding, engaging, and partnering up with Thailand. So I'm going to close with the next steps. So there are 4 things that I'm trying to reintegrate myself and make myself useful here during my time at Harvard. There's a public event like today, which we did together. There's a peer engagement, which is more communal. I call it pad thai in politics. You know, it's more a small group of students who wants to learn about Thailand, who wants to learn about Thai politics, and it's more political in that second pillar that we did yesterday. There's also private office hours for about 20 minutes for anything that you wanted to talk about. If you have questions about today's presentation and you want to do a deep dive on one of the crises, you can also do that. And I also get a lot of requests from the professors to give them a practical experience on what they are teaching to complement and make sure that we can group the next generation of leaders together. So be sure to give us feedback and reach out, and if you want to do a deep dive on something, that's how you can reach me on that last. So that's going to be the last slide that I leave on the floor. I think we have we want to leave here at about, so that was exactly 1 hour, by the way. 4 minutes overtime. We have about 20 minutes, let's say, of anything you want to talk about and anything you want to ask, and we'll take rounds.
Just a few ground rules. This is being live streamed as a webinar, so we're going to encourage you to use a microphone, and periodically we will add questions from our virtual audience. We have one student who is monitoring the Q&A. And when you ask your questions, just 3 simple things to keep in mind. Please tell us your name, your affiliation, so we know where you're coming from. Number 2, be brief. So many people have an opportunity to ask questions. And number 3.
Well, Stefan from Howard Training School, Master of Public Policy. I wanted to ask you, what could you do differently to be the Prime Minister and move some of your agenda?
Do you want to take a series of them? Or one
Yes, because we're very conscious of your time, and we have about 20 minutes before the reception. So maybe three questions, round of 3 questions, and then I'll answer them in one go.
Okay.
Hi, thank you, Kupita. I'm Sia from the School of Public Health at Harvard, and I was in your study group yesterday. I'm also from Malaysia. So just taking a step back on the role of ASEAN, I wanted to ask, what is your vision for ASEAN and the role that it will play in the region? I mean, it was formed in 1967, and it was founded on principles of non-interference and consensus decision making. So, yeah, what's your vision for it? Thank you.
Maybe from this, yes, please.
Hi, my name is Jamin, and I'm from the business school. I'm doing my MBA there. I'm curious because the solutions that you put up all sound very exciting, innovation and R&D, infrastructure building, and that actually requires a lot of financial resources and on top of that, political will. So how do you think about managing that, and where do you think that's going to come from?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll add one more from online. Do we have any
ดูคลิปจบแล้วอย่าลืมกดไลค์กดแชร์กดติดตามกดกระดิ่งให้ด้วยนะครับ